There's a secret no one tells you. Not in school, not in therapy, not even in most spiritual circles. You are not in control. You never were. The idea that you are the one doing, choosing, driving your life forward is a beautiful, convincing illusion. An illusion that gives you purpose. An illusion that gives you blame. An illusion that keeps the ego alive. But once you look deeply enough, something starts to crumble. Not violently, not dramatically, but like a thread being pulled from the edge of a sweater. You notice the breath happens without you. The heart beats without your command. The thoughts appear. You don't create them. Even when you choose something, was it really your choice? Where did the thought to choose come from? Let's pause. Notice a single thought in your mind right now. Now ask, did you make it? Or did it arise spontaneously from nowhere? The truth is unsettling at first, because the ego believes it's in charge. It needs to believe. It says, I'm the one making things happen. I'm the one moving my life forward. But the deeper you look, the more that certainty fades. Where does the decision begin? Before the thought? Before the desire? Neurologists have studied this. In lab experiments, the brain shows signs of decision-making before the subject becomes aware of having made a choice. Think about that. The impulse arises, and only after it does, the mind claims it. I did this. But the doing was already in motion. You are not the doer. You are the witness of doing. Just like the sun does not try to shine, just like the river does not choose to flow, your beingness unfolds effortlessly until the mind shows up and takes credit. This is not about helplessness. This is not nihilism. This is freedom. Because if you are not the doer, you are not the struggler either. You are not the failure. You are not the one who has to keep everything together. You can rest, not in passivity, but in the deeper current that's already moving life. There is action. There is speech. There is creativity. There is love. But there is no self at the center of it. Only awareness. Only life flowing through form. You were never the one doing. You were the space in which doing happened. This realization is not an idea. It is a loosening, a soft collapse of control, and with it, peace. True peace. Because now, you don't have to fight your experience. You don't have to fix your mind. You don't have to carry your world. You simply allow. And in that allowing, life begins to move more intelligently, more gracefully, more naturally. You say the right words without rehearsing. You take the next step without knowing why. You meet people, make choices, feel joy, cry, laugh, and all of it feels lighter. Because you're no longer clinging to authorship. You're no longer shouting, I am doing this. You're whispering, this is unfolding. And in that shift, something remarkable happens. You stop resisting life. You stop blaming yourself for things you never controlled. You stop chasing a future you were never building. You stop holding your breath hoping everything goes your way. Instead, you breathe. And you let the moment reveal itself. This is what the mystics meant by surrender. Not giving up, but giving in to the river already carrying you. Let go of the oars. Let the current show you what it already knows. You'll see. Life knows how to live. The body knows how to breathe. The moment knows how to move you. You are not separate from this movement. You are not the one initiating it. You are the stillness in which it happens. You are not the doer. You are the field of awareness where doing arises and fades. Let's go deeper, past the idea of control, into the mystery of movement itself. There's something radical, almost sacred, about realizing you are not pushing life. You are being moved by it. The breeze doesn't ask your permission before it touches your skin. The laughter doesn't wait for you to authorize it before rising in your chest. The sadness arrives, stays, and leaves, not because you chose it, but because it was time. Life is like this. It emerges, expresses, passes, and somewhere inside it all, a voice tries to claim authorship. But that voice, the voice of I did this, I made that happen, is not the source. It's the echo, the afterthought. It arrives after the action, like a narrator dubbing over a film that was already shot. Look closely. When you reach for a cup, how many muscles fire? How many neurons coordinate the gesture? You don't know. You don't need to. The movement happens. You call it mine, but it was never yours to begin with. Even thought itself arises without your command. You don't sit down and manufacture ideas from raw material. They come from silence, from nowhere, from everywhere. And yet, the ego insists. I'm the thinker, I'm the decider, I'm the one in charge. But if you were truly in charge of thought, would you ever choose anxiety? Would you ever allow fear? Would doubt ever be welcome? Of course not. These arise because you are not the controller. You are the witness. And in this witnessing, there is power. Not the power of force, but the power of surrender. The strength to stop pretending you're in charge. The courage to let go of the myth of control and rest in trust. Trust in what? In life, in awareness, in the intelligence that is existence itself. This is not about sitting on the sidelines. This is not about giving up. It's about showing up more fully, because you're no longer weighed down by the illusion of control. You act, you speak, you create. But now, without the tension of ego, without the fear that it all depends on you. Because it doesn't. It never did. The tree grows without effort. The ocean moves without decision. The stars spin through galaxies without a single thought. And you are not separate from any of it. You are not in the flow. You are the flow. Every breath, every blink, every moment of existence is part of a vast unfolding. You are not managing it. You are being it. So then what happens to responsibility, to morality, to discipline and direction? They're still here, but no longer fueled by fear, no longer twisted by ego. They arise naturally from presence, not as obligations, but as expressions. You don't act because you must. You act because it is what life is doing, right now, through this form. And that's the difference between willpower and flow. Willpower says, I must push. Flow says, let it move. One is tight, the other is spacious. One resists, the other allows. And the more you allow, the more life opens. Decisions become clearer, not because you are clever, but because you're no longer fogging the moment with grasping. Relationships deepen because you're not trying to control people or prove yourself. Peace arises because you're not constantly rehearsing the future or rewriting the past. You're here, fully, quietly, powerfully, and in this presence doing still happens. But it is clean, effortless, empty of ego, full of aliveness. You find yourself saying the right thing, doing the next thing, moving with grace. Not because you're trying to control the script, but because you've stopped pretending to be the author. You've let life write itself, and that's where the real freedom lives. Not in being the one who makes things happen, but in being the one who lets go. Because you were never the doer. You were the field, the canvas, the sky in which the painting appeared. You were never the actor. You were the light on the screen. And now, you remember, not intellectually, but viscerally, in your bones, in your breath. This isn't a concept, it's a surrender, a falling backward into presence. And there, in that free fall, you're finally caught by the one thing that never needed to be held: awareness, being, now. Imagine living each day without the weight of authorship. Imagine speaking, acting, creating, without the constant internal pressure to get it right. No more measuring every moment. No more rehearsing conversations before they happen. No more rewriting the past when they're over. Just flow. Not laziness, not passivity, not detachment, but participation, without possession. You still engage. You still move through the world, but something has shifted beneath the surface. You are no longer gripping the wheel with white knuckles, because you finally realized there is no wheel, and the road is walking itself. Let's pause and feel what that means. That the I you thought was making decisions was never more than a character in a much larger unfolding. That life was never being pushed forward by your will. It was always unfolding by itself, through you. like wind through a flute, like music through an instrument, like light through a prism. You are not the cause. You are the condition. And when the conditions are right, the action happens. Not because you made it happen, but because life is endlessly, effortlessly expressing itself through this form you call you. And now, you see the ego in a new light. Not as a villain, not as an enemy, but as a misunderstanding, a beautiful attempt at meaning-making that mistook narration for authorship. You believed, I am doing this. But really, it was just a movement arising within consciousness, no different than the breeze, no different than the waves. And here's the strange part. Once you surrender the role of the doer, you begin to feel more alive, not less. You begin to feel more available to the present, more in tune with the timing of things, more aligned with what actually wants to happen. Because now, you're no longer forcing. You're listening, you're sensing, you're responding, not reacting. This is what spiritual traditions have always meant by surrender. Not giving up, but giving in. Letting go of the illusion of control and resting in the intelligence that moves everything. In Taoism, they call it wu-wei, action without effort. In Advaita, it's the realization that all action happens in awareness, and awareness itself does nothing. Even in neuroscience, there are echoes. Experiments show our brain fires the impulse to act before we consciously decide. So what is free will? Maybe it's not about choice in the way we think. Maybe it's about awareness of choice as it arises, about riding the wave, not creating it. Maybe real freedom isn't in making life happen. It's in responding clearly to what's already moving. And when that shift happens, you begin to trust life again. You stop bracing against the unknown. You stop overthinking every moment. You stop trying to edit yourself in real time. You just show up, fully, openly, lovingly. And the irony is, when you stop trying to control everything, you actually show up more responsibly. Because you're not acting from fear. You're not driven by guilt. You're not reacting to an imagined future. You're present. And presence knows what to do, far better than ego ever could. Sometimes it says yes. Sometimes it says wait. Sometimes it says let go. But it always moves in alignment with truth. Not your story of truth, but truth itself as it unfolds in the now. And that truth doesn't need justification. It doesn't need explanation. It simply is. You may still hear the old thoughts. Am I doing the right thing? What if I'm making the wrong choice? That's okay. Let them arise. But don't believe them. Let the wave of anxiety move through without climbing on its back. You are no longer the doer. You are the field. You are no longer the controller. You are the container. And life is dancing through you. Not because you force it, but because you're finally still enough to feel it. This is the paradox. You don't become less human. You become more fluid, more tender, more true, because your actions no longer carry the burden of proving your worth. They're not about you anymore. They're about life, moving as love, moving as presence, moving as this moment, exactly as it is. So now, you walk differently. You speak without pretense. You listen without defending. You act without seeking validation. You do, without being the doer. And in that letting go, you come alive. There is a moment on this path where words begin to fail. Not because the insight isn't clear, but because it's too simple to explain. You are not the doer. You never were. Not in the grand events, not in the quiet decisions, not even in the moment you believed, I figured it out. Even that was just another wave, passing through awareness. And when you truly let this in, not as an idea, but as a recognition, something profound happens. You stop needing to be the author of your life. You stop defending every action. You stop apologizing for your existence. You stop fighting with the flow. Instead, you soften. You stop trying to become. And in that stillness, you begin to be. Not as a name, not as a personality, but as the silent field that allows all of it to happen. This isn't passivity, It's presence. The kind of presence that notices each step without claiming it. The kind of awareness that sees each thought without believing it. The kind of peace that remains even when the world moves in chaos. You may still feel the urge to control. That's okay. It's part of the conditioning. Just watch it. Let it pass like weather. Don't suppress it, don't fight it. Just see through it. You don't have to destroy the illusion of control. You only need to recognize it as illusion. And when you do, your whole experience shifts. Suddenly, life becomes less of a strategy and more of a mystery. Less like a chess game, more like a dance. You stop trying to manipulate every outcome. You start moving with the rhythm of the unknown. And you trust, not blindly, but intuitively. You don't trust that everything will go your way. You trust that whatever comes, you will meet it with presence. Because presence doesn't need plans. Presence doesn't panic. Presence simply is. And you, the real you, are that presence. You are not the sum of your actions. You are not the narrator. You are not the character playing I. You are the vast awareness in which the story appears and dissolves. And now, with all this seeing, what remains? Not fear, not striving, not control. Just a simple, spacious clarity. A return, a remembering that the breath breathes itself. The thoughts think themselves. The body moves because movement is happening. You are not behind the curtain, pulling levers. You are the curtain. You are the stage. You are the light shining through it all. Even now, as you hear these words, you are not making sense of them. You are simply receiving. And in that receiving, you're not passive. You are wide open, fully alive. This is where the world begins to feel lighter, where moments stop demanding so much, where life starts speaking in silence. You walk, you feel, you respond, but you don't grip. You don't fear outcomes the way you once did, because you're no longer trying to sculpt the river. You're learning how to float. And even floating isn't something you do. It happens when you stop trying to swim upstream. So let this moment arrive, just as it is. Let the breath come. Let the thought pass. Let the body move. And know, none of it needs your control. All of it is happening in the field of your awareness. You are not its maker. You are its space. And that space is infinite, silent, untouched, free. You are not the doer. You are the knowing in which all doing dissolves. And now, you remember. Next time on the Beyond the Self series, we explore no one left to seek when the seeker dissolves. Until then, stay curious, stay conscious. If this stirred something inside you, subscribe, like, and share this with a fellow seeker.